Let's review some of the basic elements that you should use in each of your body paragraphs for a literary analysis. So you will notice I have some things color-coded here for you. I will link to the Quoteburger format for body paragraphs that incorporate sources so that you can see why I have chosen certain colors. But I have an alternative color in here that is purple because this paragraph requires you to connect a primary source and a secondary source within each body paragraph. So let's review how body paragraphs are structured. So at the top, I have a brown sentence that is the main idea sentence. Every body paragraph should start with a main idea sentence that makes a point that you can use to prove your thesis statement. So my thesis statement for this is in this blue highlighted part, and then the body paragraph starts with a main idea that supports that thesis. The next part is not a full sentence. It is an introductory phrase that introduces a quotation from a secondary source. A secondary source is a source that helps you analyze a primary source. The primary source is whatever short story, poem, novel, play, whatever work of literature you are analyzing. That's your primary source, and you will use the secondary sources to help you say something meaningful about the primary source. And more importantly, you want to engage with scholars who've already written about the primary source. So you want to know what the conversation that's already happened with the scholars, the ones they have written, know what that is, and then contribute your own ideas. Whether you agree or disagree with the scholars, make that part of your contribution to what they have to say and contribute your own thoughts. Oftentimes students just quote from scholars, quote from primary source, and put those together without including any of their own ideas. So the black part in this paragraph, those parts are the quoted parts. So you can see all the other colors, those are the parts where you contribute your own ideas, whether you're reflecting on what you've quoted or you are then contributing your own thoughts to what you have quoted, what you have found out from your sources. So again, that top sentence is brown, that is the main idea sentence. Then this red part is introducing a secondary source that will say something useful about the primary source. When you are introducing a quotation from a secondary source, and no matter what source you're using, I want you to use the exact words. So direct quotations are required for my class. Make sure that I am sure who you are quoting. So in this case, I have in her article, Shirley Jackson's use of symbols in the lottery. Danielle Schaub mentions that. And then this is what Schaub says. Now, you'll notice that I don't have a parenthetical citation here. That is because I have already mentioned the author's name in that introductory phrase. And the author's last name should be what is first in the works cited for that source. So I should be able to look at this last name and scroll to the works cited and see that first in one of my sources. And sure enough, here it is. Notice my sources are in alphabetical order. Even though this is the first source I use in the essay, it is not first in the works cited list because it is alphabetically last. All right. Also notice that when I introduce a quotation and the word that happens to come right before the quotation, I don't need a comma. The word that and a comma do the same job, so I don't need the word that. So if I wanted to say Schaub mentions and then give the quote, then I would use a comma. But I never have a comma with the word that. So choose one or the other, but not both. If I were worried about not having a parenthetical citation, and I wanted to include the last name of the author or whatever's first for that source in the works cited, for my class, I would be fine with you going ahead and giving that parenthetical citation right there. Make sure you capitalize the last name. So I need to go back and do that. And you'll notice that I moved the period from at the end of the quotation to after the parenthetical citation. Also, there is no page number here because there are no page numbers of this online source that I have. I'm not sure what's happening with my formatting there, but I would need to go back and fix that. Computers can be glitchy, so get some help from your tutors if you want to, if you are having any kind of computer issues. English instructors, as you can see, don't know everything about computers. So if you're having formatting trouble, going to the tutoring lab is a great idea. All right, so after I have quoted something, I need to react to it or explain it in my own words. Now, this is not a quotation that necessarily needs to be explained in my own words, but I need to say something in reaction to it. So if the language in a quotation is really complicated, like if you're writing about some complex idea and there's a lot of technical jargon in there, then yes, you might want to just restate it in a nutshell in your own words to make it accessible to any reader. But if you have written something or quoted something that is not super technical and is easy to understand, then your next sentence can just be a reaction to what you have quoted, which is what I have here. This purple part is bridging between my reaction to what the secondary source said and what I'm going to quote from the primary source to illustrate the point that is being made with using that secondary source. Okay, so that's what the purple part is there. And then you can see the red part here is not giving the name of the short story because from my thesis and my introduction, it's obvious that I'm talking about the short story. And also that should be obvious from the way I have written the sentences leading up to this introductory phrase before a quotation from the short story. So at one point it is said that, or maybe I could say the narrator states, instead of says that. I would use a comma if I just say states and then give the quotation. So make sure if you have a verb of expression like states or asks or exclaims, then use a comma before the quotation, if the quotation is a complete sentence especially. All right, and then the parenthetical citation goes at the end, and it should be the last name of the author, of my primary source in this case. And if you have page numbers, add the page number. This was a handout for this story, so there was not a page number available. If you wanted to print out a handout, and I encourage you to do that, go ahead and add the page number. Just number it yourself, or if you got a handout in class, hand number those pages. Because it helps the reader know where within the story your quotation comes from if they're interested in going back to look at the very good point you've made by including this piece of the text. So Jackson is the last name of the author. That should be what I see first in the works cited for that source, and it is. When you are quoting in the body paragraphs, you would use just the page number that you're quoting on. And if we had page numbers, I'm going to pretend we do. If we had page numbers here, it would look like this, PP at the end, not in italics. PP at the end for pages, and then whatever page numbers the whole story is. So if I gave you a handout and it was 7 pages, you would say pages 1 through 7, like that. Oh, also end every citation with a period right there. It shows that it's over. This is the end point. All right. Once we have cited our quotation correctly and given the page number, react to or comment on the significance of what you've quoted. Then, in the last sentence, you'll notice it's the same color as that first sentence, or the main idea, or it should be. They're both brown. They're just slightly different browns. But they're both brown to show the connection. So you want your body paragraphs to work like a frame so that you have the main idea you started with needs to be addressed again in the closing of the paragraph so that it feels cohesive and that the information within the paragraph feels like it all belongs together and it's all working together to make a single point. So make sure that you maybe use some of the same key terms in the main idea sentence and the closing sentence, and use that closing sentence just like you're using the main idea sentence to state a point that helps prove your thesis. Use the closing sentence not only to connect back to that main idea sentence, but your thesis statement for the whole essay. So you might reiterate some of those key terms from your thesis statement even. And you'll remember your thesis statement should be the last sentence of your introductory paragraph. It is also the first sentence in your concluding paragraph, which happens to be yellow here. It shouldn't, but we'll do no color on it. Again, get a tutor to help you with things like this because I can't make this yellow go away. But that is all you need to include in each body paragraph. You don't have to necessarily use colors unless you have been requested to do that in class or in a handout. For my class, I would love to see you use these same colors to show that you understand all the elements, but you are not required to necessarily. Of course, I may update this if this is an old video for you. For your class, then I may have revised that statement, but use colors if you have been told to, but the purpose for using colors for this video is just to show you the job of each part of the body paragraph. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Make good use of the free tutoring services we have. Come and see me if you can make an appointment when I have some office hours. I would love to read a draft and give you some feedback.